I'm 2,000 years old, and I remember when we used to open up the door and just let the kids pee.
Sarah! Sarah! Sarah!
Hey, lady!
Sarah!
I found her!
Oh, God, I'm so sorry.
Sarah will be part of our trial period.
Response so far is just incredible. A sense of security, peace of mind. The stories we've been hearing, they are truly inspirational.
It's completely safe.
Sure it is, honey.
This Black Mirror episode, Archangel, which is incredible. I got to see it. And
you will too, very soon.
How did you get involved with Black Mirror? What made you want to be involved with Black Mirror?
I didn't know anything about it. I was, reached out to Netflix and was talking about what we could possibly do next. And
You did some Orange is the New Black before,
I did
right?
Orange is the New Black, House of Cards, and I just come from doing a feature, and I was just bemoaning the fact that streaming doesn't really have an opportunity to have feature-length films, that have a beginning, a middle, and an end, and that are all about the story. And she said, I've got a show for you. And then I totally binge-watched it and fell in love with it. So
yeah, it's an incredible show. And with this story, is this something that they sort of pitched this particular story to? Because it's written by Charlie Booker, who's written sort of the majority, the bulk, if not all
of them. There's one I think that he co-wrote.
Was this something that they gave you the stories that they had, and you chose which one you thought best fit you, or how did it work out?
No, I think they just had me pegged. They sent it over, and I couldn't believe how right it was for me.
In what way?
Well, I make personal films that usually relate in some ways to my life. Even Money Monster, which is, sort of a mainstream Hollywood movie, I had a lot to say about how I felt about myself. And
about yourself? I mean, about yourself and about media and about sort of media's relationship and manipulation of money?
All of that. This one really spoke to me as a daughter of a single mom. My mom worked with me as my manager and traveled with me my whole life, and the process of individuating was painful. It was a beautiful life together, but also an incredibly painful struggle leaving.
So much of this, did you feel like this particular story was about the individuating process for parent and child?
Yeah, I mean, like all of Black Mirror. Obviously, the theme is technology, but mostly as technology itself is merely just a reflection, just highlighting our own psychological messed up problems. And in this case, it really talks about that mother-daughter relationship, that kind of strained symbiotic bond that is at once, frighteningly intimate and also really scary in terms of the control that a parent can have over a child.
Yeah, as a boy, it's such a strange relationship, and I always try to say, well, I have a dad, my relationship with my dad, and women always say, it's not the same,
it's
dude.
Not the same.
You have no idea what
She has daughters, I have sons.
Yeah, no, it's sticky, and you don't know where you begin and your mother ends and your mother ends and you begin. I remember one time saying to my dad, my mom passed away a long time ago, I was like, did mom used to? And I do that. He's like, well, you're not the same person. I'm like, no, I know. But it's such an enmeshed relationship. You take all your cues on how to be a woman from your mother, and there's a lot in this of like the mother really wants to do what's best for her child. She really wants to protect her. She wants to empower her, and then where there's a weird hazy line that she I think steps over it in points.
How did you get involved with the project? Did Jodie reach out to you, or?
Jodie reached out. I thought, are you sure you want me to do that? Like I was like, I couldn't believe my good fortune. It's a beautiful, like perfect film on the page. I didn't know Black Mirror. I have 2 little kids, so I'm in Moana land and, Pixar lately.
Haven't slipped a Black Mirror episode?
I just didn't do it, but now I did. And then I started binging. I stopped because it was kind of breathtaking, the series. And then I felt really scared. Like, what if we're not worthy? And I stopped. And then they're all standalone. So we went and made this, what Jodie's described as an independent film. It's a human story. It's, it's messy. It's very American. It's 2 minutes into the future. And it was a great ride.
Can you talk about working off of one of Charlie Booker's scripts? Because they are beautiful from beginning to end. They're amazing.
He has a very particular style that sometimes is challenging because he has a lot of plot in order to understand the device and how the device works and where the technology is. He really loves all that stuff, and he crams all of that into the first 2 acts, and then you have to hurry up and kind of make this third act work. But,
that's so interesting. As a director, you're sort of thinking about how you can get to the third act, sort of not as fast as possible, but
well, he has a very specific tone. You know, the way he sculpts things is very specific, and so there were some changes that happened. But I think it's the nicest collaboration I've ever had with a producer. Annabelle Jones is also his co-producer. It was just, maybe it's because they're English. I don't know. There's something about how, you know, when an American says, you know, I don't like that cut, do it differently, it sounds very different when it's like, well, it's sort of like, it's quite nice. Perhaps you'd like to, you know, and I'm like, wow, that sounded great. That sounds like something I'd love to do.
I would love to do what you wanted me to do right now. That's so interesting that you say that, though, because I've seen all the Black Mirror episodes, and for some reason I've never caught on to the idea that, yeah, it is like 2 acts of information and then just sort of the rush of how everything could go horribly wrong.
Yeah, it's one turn. They have one turn in features, which are an hour and a half. There's a kind of organicness, there are different turns that happen along the way, but in this one, they kind of get crammed into the last act. So it's a balancing act, and just wonderful. I mean, it's amazing that he's able to do that dialogue that sounded incredibly American, that he's able to capture the story of women, and he's a guy. He's an amazing writer, an amazing human being. I'm sure you guys have, now you've seen him. He won his Emmy, so he's had his famous Emmy speech. He's very articulate and funny.
Let's talk a little bit about the setting. I know I'm not I have been warned about spoilers, so,
okay.
But I did ask previously about this. And one of the things that I loved about this episode is that we have this technology, yet the class divide still feels very relatable in this country without ever really addressing it. It's just sort of what the neighborhood, what it looks like. You know, can you talk about developing that? Was that a part of the script, or was that?
No, that really wasn't in the script. That was really kind of how I saw it. I felt like I wanted to talk about where is America in the very, very, very not distant future. So where are we 10 years from now, and what has all of this wonderful technology brought? Maybe it's brought automation, and it means everybody's out of work that lives in Pittsburgh. And so that was the feeling that I had of an America in some ways that had this future technology, but that was still the basics and the infrastructure was just crumbling, much like the mother character who's kind of coming from this land of no opportunity in some ways. And she sees all of this opportunity and the possibility of having a daughter who could ultimately have some of the things that she's not able to have.
Well, she's still working, and that's kind of part of it, you know. She's a single mother who's working, and at the very least would like to be able to know. I'm stopping myself there.
Don't you tell me what I know. No, okay.
No, I don't want to give anything away.
Right.
Yeah. Do you as a mother, what was it like for you to play this part in terms of lessons learned?
Yeah, I mean, there's an easy entry point because we all have those fears. I mean, there's a moment where you go, wait, were they, you know what I mean? And you have, oh God, they're right there. So every person has a fear of losing their child in a supermarket or something. So I understood the impulse. I'm a little leery of it all. You know, I've just read an article recently on, like, you know, this year, like, the big thing is, like, all these things, like, where kids are connected to the internet through their toys. And, like who's listening through that little bear in your, you know, living room? It is kind of freaky, and it's the thing I so appreciate about what Charlie does with this series is he takes our low-level anxiety about it and ratchets it up. So as a mom, it was an easy entry point. I mean, most of the Black Mirror episodes are cautionary tales. So, you know, like Jodie said, there's a big turn. I'm not a super helicopter-y parent. Like, those baby monitors were out a couple months in. It felt like a crazy invasion of a 3-month-old's privacy. I don't know. Like, you know what I mean? I'm like, if they want to write in crayon on the walls, you know, they should be able to do it, and I'll yell at them later. But but I see how easy I do definitely recognize I don't sometimes intend to be on the internet for 4 hours. I intend to look something up. And then I look something else up, and then I look something else up, and then I'm reading an article about this, and then I'm going, you know, and then I'm like, what happened to my time? So I think a lot of it is about how we use our technology. Because Jodie keeps saying it's, you know, it's like a blender. It's not really anything. It's what we do with it. And we're all, you know, still learning that.
Do you ever do that thing where you pick up your phone to look up one thing, but then you forget while you're holding the phone that you were going to do one thing and you do 3 other things? Until someone's like, did you do that thing that I asked you to do? And you're like, oh, that's what I was picked up the phone for. Did you ever?
Well, it's even crazy that just in that gesture you can do so many things.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
You have such a huge amount of dire information that comes at you when you may or may not be ready for that much emergency. And that's my problem, is the amount of emergency that I go through in a single day, whether it's, Aaron Rodgers' injuries or, Trump, really.
Right.
I mean, it's just an assault of emergencies.
And it all feels the same at a certain point when obviously some should have more power over you than, or not power over you, but importance than others.
Yeah, and this show kind of touches a little bit on that, which is, what if your device was intended really to just make sure that you check in with your child, but it actually has these unintended other things that you get to do, and that are even much more of an invasion. And then that invasion, in a way, becomes almost like a secret thrill, And I can see how that's true in our own lives, but especially in our lives with our children. That you would love to be able to get inside the body of your child and be able to see what your little 3-year-old is seeing every day. But there's something kind of creepy about that, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
Something? Yeah, many things are creepy about that. But I think it's also in an attempt to know each other. You know what I mean? And the more disconnected we get, especially with parents and children, not only do you want to know they're safe, you want to know them. And there is a way in which they're always going to be their own people. You know what I mean? With their private lives and this and that, and there's a boundary crossed.
Do you have technology policies with your children? I don't have a child, but we talk about it all the time when we do have a child, like no screens till 5 years old.
Good luck with that.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, try to go out to dinner. You know what I mean? And then you're like, here, you can have it. Just let me eat this burger.
I have older kids, so I have a 19-year-old and a 16-year-old, so you sort of pass that level, and then you realize that hopefully you've equipped them. Rosemary's talked about this, about hoping to have equipped them with a psyche that now will be able to fend for themselves, that they know what's right or wrong, or that they know what's an ethical choice and what's a good choice. I mean, that's what we hope for.
No matter what the technology, there's still core principles that haven't been sort of
But you have to be able to give them independence in order for them to be able to have that choice,
Was that hard when you did that?
It's all a process, right? I mean, every time I live in Los Angeles, so anytime they get in a car, I'm you're concerned that your 16-year-old is in a car who knows what he's doing. He doesn't really know how to drive very well, so there's all that stuff.
Yeah. Rosemary?
I have a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old, so it's more just like, no, you can't have that. You know what I mean? And then, yes, you can have it for 5 minutes. I mean, for when you're serious about this, they do say it's damaging to young minds, like under 2 years old, and it shortens your attention span, and, I'm sure the studies will go on and on and on. But I do feel like we're not really, like, we have to equip them as human beings, and we have to teach them, but it's moving at the speed of light. Like, I'm not paying attention right now to Facebook and Twitter and all that stuff, because it's going to be different by the time my kids are preteens. You know what I mean? And they might literally have devices like this. Or, we got a dog the other day, and she's a rescue. And like, don't worry, she's already chipped. And I'm like, okay. Like, what does that mean exactly? And
what does that mean? Does that mean she's like you can track her?
Yep.
Whoa.
Yep.
But somebody
know everything about
this
her.
is a living, little puppy that was already chipped. And I'm just like, oh, okay, so I guess somebody made that decision, and, off we go. So I'm sure human beings are next.
Well, when you do science fiction, you're always amazed that 10 years after you finish the movie, that whatever it was that you did in the movie, like, now has come to pass. And a few years ago, I did Elysium, and what was interesting about it was that it was all about immigration and the problems with health insurance, and that the rich people had basically devised this orbit where if you had enough money, you basically could get free health care and you could live forever. But anybody that didn't have enough money had to deal with La Migra nobody letting them to come up to the other orbit, the other planetary orbit thing. Boy, we're very close to that.
Yeah, we're extremely close to that right now.
Yeah, and they had chips, and we all had chips. Every time you walked through a corridor, it would say your name, because if you're chipped, everybody knows where you are at all times.
And then eventually those chips, you talk about Twitter and Facebook, those won't really exist, because once you have this chip or a chip,
right,
you'll be kind of just uploading your consciousness to the public stream. You can kind of just decide whether or not those thoughts should be public or not, or can't decide
And
at
will
all.
they be your thoughts?
And
when they're connected to something else?
Science fiction has always known that we are headed towards becoming some kind of cyborg. You know, we're all headed towards, we already are interfaced enough with enough technology that one person is not just one person. I'm one person and I'm 1 billion mega whatevers of data that accompanies me wherever I go. So we are half cyborg already. It's just a question of committing to the chip, I think.
So terrifying.
Are you scared yet? I know, I feel scared in
I'm
this
generally scared
conversation.
of technology and consciousness, even though I use it all the time. But I am, let's talk a little more about parenting.
Sure.
And one of the things that I love about this episode, and I don't think I'm giving anything away here,
Okay.
is the slippery slope from sort of protective to sneaky, you know? And that's okay, right?
Yeah, I mean,
I didn't give anything away.
I won't give it away. I mean, I think that there's a big thing that happens the first time your children lie to you.
Yes.
The first time your children lie to you, and before that, somehow you thought they were a part of you, and then suddenly they make a decision to do something that directly rips them away from you in some ways. Most of the time, we don't know that. We don't know that they're lying to us. They're little lies that happen, or regular little lies. We don't think anything of it. But with a device, of course, those lies become clear. And there's a kind of betrayal to that feels like a lover's betrayal in a way.
Yeah, and we talked a lot about that while we were working together, like, you know, being mothers, being daughters of mothers. Jodie's mom was a single mother, and just sometimes how enmeshed you can get in that relationship, and how a lie, you know, between a bigger family unit might feel like one thing, and in a 2-family unit could feel like a betrayal. You know, could feel like something, you know, irrevocably has been broken or something. And we explored that enmeshment a lot with these 2 young women.
I thought about how I would react if my child lied to me. I mean, the show was so great because it brings all of these things up. And I was hoping that I would be like, did he just lie to me? All right, good. He's working. He's figuring it out. That's great. But I would probably be really upset and probably be emotionally destroyed.
Yeah, I mean, you know, all this stuff is fascinating. So to me, it's always very interesting because any relationship, whether it's you and your boss, you and, you know, that robot, or you and the guy, the Martian, it's really all about family dynamics. In movies, I mean, I feel like every relationship that we have eventually circles around to a family dynamic that we share, whether it's with our parents or our siblings.
So confused, though. It's like you're talking about like we're half cyborg, that relationship you have with your robot and your alien. What are you saying?
I don't know. I might have these parenting problems with my robot soon.
Your robot's been lying to you?
The robot's been lying to me.
Or you've been lying to the robot, and the robot's like really upset. You've been seeing a different robot, or you have a different robot friend, and the robot has lost it a little bit.
Well, you know, it's a funny thing. I once heard this. I guess it was on NPR. It was something or other where somebody was talking to the robot, and they were like, "Yes, we've trained the robot to be a good listener." And then the robot went off on this, told a story. And the robot said, you know, once I had a dog, and the dog did this, and his dog's name was this, and this happened, and I was really hurt. And I started listening to the robot, and I was like, I love the robot. I fell in love with the robot. I was completely in love with the robot because there was a sharing that happened. And, you know, I guess, am I such a naive human that the second somebody starts sharing some part of their life that feels authentic and real and kind of, you know, I'm admitting defeat and weakness and all of that, I'm immediately, like, intimate with them? Yes, that's who we are.
As soon as someone's vulnerable with you,
as soon as they are, that's the way in. Robots are going to figure that out pretty soon.
Do you think it always comes back to the family dynamic, whether we're in science fiction or we're in, you know, a thriller, whatever genre we're doing? Because the family dynamic is where sort of like love and trust is born, and love and trust are the kind of cores of storytelling and what humans need?
I'm a psychology person, you know. I'm fascinated by psychology, and I'm fascinated by the tiny little details that go into interaction, any interaction, whether it's, you know, the president's interaction with the press corps, or whether it's, you know,
interaction with the press corps.
You know, that there is, I love the details of watching why people do things, their motivations, whether their motivations come from something that's in the present or something that's in the past, something that's conscious to them, something that's not conscious to them. I mean, that is the work that we do as actors. Every day we do it consciously and unconsciously, where we reveal layers of meaning that sometimes are known to us and sometimes aren't. And that all goes back to, you know, family relationships.
Now, when you're shooting a show like this that is, you know, heavily plotted, it's pretty beated out, and the story's very clear. Do you still have conversations like this on set about the characters, or do you work differently than that? Because sometimes some directors and actors have those conversations, and other times they're kind of like, "You got it, let's go." Like, or I go.
Every actor's different.
Both, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it was kind of, Jodie, I feel very much creates a super safe environment for everyone to play. And she's like, you got it, you go. And then over lunch, you know, you're taking your sweet potatoes off the cart and we just start talking about our mothers. You know what I mean? And it's kind of like there's no work, life. You just kind of are all in the flow. And this one was particularly easy because we all related to it.
Yeah.
And it's something also, which is what I think why people respond to the series, is because there's so much in there, like for us to see ourselves. It was easy. Right?
Yeah, and, you know, we get along, we work similarly, I think.
Yeah.
Although you're better.
Not true.
We do, you know, we work similarly. So, you know, if there's something that needs to be attended to, we talk about it. And if not, we're talking about movies we like and, you know, other things in a way. So that we don't expend energy in the wrong direction.
Yeah.
There's all sorts of, you know, when you've worked long enough, there's all sorts of pet peeves you have about what directors do. And one of the pet peeves I have is that directors sometimes like to get involved in your process so much, when the truth is that they should just say 2 words to you, like faster, slower, green, blue, and then they should mosey along and drink some coffee and let you do your thing. Yeah. So all of that is, you know, you just feel it in the moment, I think.
You say you talk about movies. Were you thinking of any movies or directors in particular when you were going into making this?
You know, even though you may not make the parallel when you see the film, I thought a lot about Bergman. A lot about stories of women together where there's a lot of moments that the audience understands the subtext and understands what's going on between them, that they're both lying to each other, and one knows that they're lying to the other one, and the other one knows that the other one's lying, but they're not saying it. So all of those sort of unsaid moments reminded me of Bergman films.
Oh, Bergman.
Yes.
Oh,
Ingmar Bergman.
Oh, so I got that. I thought you said Birdman. And I was like, I did not see
Birdman.
that. I did
Yeah, me neither.
I did not see Birdman in this, but I'm going to nod like a good host.
Sure.
I mean, my reference
Birdman, I
point for the film was Birdman, right? You saw like a lot of Michael Keaton and Emma Stone, my character.
And every day you were just going, Jodie, it's all one shot, right? You're just going to follow me. It's all
It was all one shot. Did you see?
We have a clip that we're going to play from the episode, and then we're going to take some questions from the audience. Let's look at a clip.
Miss Umbrella?
Yes.
And Sarah, right? Follow me. You have a recommendation, so Sarah will be part of our trial period.
Well, it's been tested, though, right?
Of course.
She's not like a guinea pig.
Yes, it's all fully tested, perfectly safe. This is just us fine-tuning our subscription model before the full launch.
Look at the kids.
We're getting feedback on which features our customers use most in the real world.
Uh-huh.
Go up. Yeah. Response so far is just incredible. The sense of security, peace of mind. I mean, the stories we've been hearing, they are truly inspirational. Can you see the screen?
Okay, then.
There you go. You like cartoons?
Yeah.
Yeah? Shimmer and shine?
Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Then you watch that, and I won't be a moment, okay?
Doubling gem that Samira sent you to find. That would be cheating. So wrong. You're right. I guess it wouldn't be very fair. And it wouldn't be as much fun as trying to find the gem on our own. Guys, here they are.
Let's get some questions from the audience. Who has a question?
Hi.
Oh, hi.
So I was wondering what the casting and some of the relationship was like with some of the younger audience members or the kids, and did they realize that they were in a sort of a dark episode or show?
Right. Yeah, well, we really wanted to, it's almost like if you ever saw that movie Boyhood, where you get to watch somebody grow before your very eyes, and there's just something fascinating about watching a child that's the same child growing. We kind of wanted to replicate that, so the kids you really had to believe that they were the same person. So that took a lot of casting. It took a long time to find that. They were great. They're all actors, so they kind of know what they're doing. They know that they're in a story. The middle one especially, I think, was just amazing. I think she's going to be president someday. President of Canada,
Yeah.
fortunately. unfortunately.
Yeah, she had to take like a day off to go to like the Kids' Choice Awards where she won like 7 awards or something. You know what I mean? Like she's very accomplished. And the little one in that scene, Jodie's really good directing kids because this one, you know, about hour 7 in is like eating Starburst and going like, I want to put my leg behind my head in the scene. Is this okay? And Jodie's like, no, this is a serious scene where you're just going to focus and look at the, you know, I mean, and they're so honest that you just tell them who you are. You know, you say, you're a bad guy, I'm a good guy, go. And they just go.
Every once in a while you go, look at my finger, look at my finger, look at my finger, look at my finger. You know, do that kind of thing as well.
Yeah. Next question.
Oh.
Hi.
Hi.
So for you, Jodie, I know you've directed both film and TV. Do you find any differences between those two?
Oh, there's differences in everything you do, but episodic TV, which this is not, but episodic TV where the arc happens over 8 seasons, has a very different feeling to it. And as a director, you're really brought in to just serve the creator. So they bring you in, they've already cast it, they've already designed all the sets, they've already figured everything out, and you have 2 weeks of prep, and they hand it to you, and that's that. So I think that's less of a creative enterprise than doing something like Black Mirror or something like a feature. You know, the feature world now, I don't think there's a huge difference, except, you know, people have gotten out of the habit of going to see movies in movie theaters, and the ones that they do see are the big budget, massive franchise films. So real narrative and real storytelling is all happening on streaming and cable now.
Would you ever want to direct a big budget franchise movie?
No.
Good for you. Good. No, that's great. I think that.
I really don't think so. I mean, you know, sometimes some things require a certain amount of money, right? If you're going to do a period movie that happens in, you know, Venice or something in the 1400s, obviously you're going to need a certain amount of money to accomplish that. If a film that has a lot of computer-generated graphics. Those aren't the films that I'm normally drawn to. Maybe someday there'll be a family movie in Renaissance Italy. I don't know. But I don't see it being a big franchise film, no.
It's become this thing where if someone is successful, or even an actor wins an Oscar or something, it's like the next thing is a franchise movie. And I like that someone's just like, no, I don't want to do that shit.
I had a long career in the business, you know, 52 years in the business, and I had a certain career as an actor where there were things that I really wanted to accomplish in order to be quote unquote excellent, whatever that meant. You know, like if you're an athlete, you want to be an excellent athlete, so you want to go to the Olympics, so you got to do the things you need to do to get to the Olympics. I kind of don't feel that way as a director. I feel as a director that I just really want to express myself, and this is my last act. You know, this is my last big desire, and I don't need to be the most famous or the best or the biggest or the most money making. I just really need to do good work, and that may mean very humble work.
You just get to enjoy the process.
Yeah, I do, and obviously I take it very seriously, and there's responsibility to that, but I guess my goals are different. It's really about telling a story in the most honest way, and that doesn't necessarily always mean, you know, hitting all the little pellet buttons for the mousetrap.
Yes, you've worked with, in your 52-year career, a number of really amazing directors. What director that you worked with do you think you learned the most from?
I think David Fincher. I feel like David Fincher. I'm sure everybody says that. He's the most amazing technician for sure of anybody I've ever worked with. There is no job that he can't do better than anybody in the movie business. But I guess his sense of a full vision is somebody that I really admire a lot.
Next question. I think this is our last question. Oh,
Hi.
hey.
What do you think is the key ingredient in making the show such success? Is it because there are societal warnings and the repercussions that we may have on the world, or what is it, in your opinion?
What do you think?
Fear.
Fear.
Some of it. I think there's a lot of fear right now. I think we all, you know, you hear the phrase over and over, it's a crazy time. We're living in a crazy time. I think because he deals with like the intersection of humanity and technology, and it's so uncharted and there's so many questions. Like you're saying, like, what are your rules about kids and technology? We don't know, and he's willing to go into the we don't know and think about it. And a lot of us, because we're scared of it, we just shut it off. So he goes there for us, and then we get to go there for an hour, and then we get to go, oh my God, thank God that's not happening. And then move on.
And then it happens.
And then it happens.
Then the unintended consequences, you know, just become the absolute reality for that piece of technology.
Yeah, I mean, we've created we've created, because technology has allowed us to, the digital era has allowed us to create something that we don't fully understand the ethical complications of, what will happen in the future. We don't understand that. We don't have time to research it. We don't have time to know. We're just, we've put ourselves in a car that's heading in a toboggan, and we don't really know where the toboggan's going. So there's a lot of anxiety that comes with that.
I love the episode. I love the show so much. Congratulations.
Oh, thanks.
All of the new season will be on Netflix December 29th.
That's right.
Right? For everybody to binge. I'm going to binge them. Give them a round of applause. Rosemarie DeWitt and Jodie Foster. Everybody.